With Lou Lamoriello gone and uncertainty around who will be the next GM of the New York Islanders, there are plenty of rumors surrounding the team, including a rumor that the New York Islanders will look to move on from star forward Mat Barzal in this offseason. We're going to break that all down on this episode of Islanders Digest, but before we do that, be sure to be one of our first 100 subscribers as we get closer and closer to hitting our first milestone. Thank you for all the support. If you're an Islander fan and you want more Islanders content, this is the channel for you. Now, I was seeing a lot of rumors about, especially from teams like Montreal and Vancouver, who desperately need a top 6 center, about adding Mat Barzal. And then recently, they seem to double and triple with almost every account about those teams talking about Mat Barzal. And I was trying to figure out where this is all coming from, and I think it all stems from this initial tweet. Phil's Facts, which if you are an Islander fan, you know this is a very passionate Islanders account. I will say on Twitter, Phil does tend to troll a little bit here and there, but let's just read the tweet and then talk about the reality of the Islanders moving on from Mat Barzal, because I do think there is a possibility, but I don't think it is as likely as other teams would like to think. If you're a Vancouver fan or a Montreal fan, I'm sorry to tell you, I don't think the Islanders are eager to move on from Mat Barzal, and in addition, if they do move on from Mat Barzal, I definitely don't think it'll be for a trade like some of these Vancouver and Montreal fans are talking about, where they trade a few future assets and get Mat Barzal. It's going to be, we're going to talk about at the end of this video of what a Mat Barzal trade can look like and what are some other Islanders who are way more likely to leave this offseason via trade. But let's get right into this tweet. Phil tweets, "From what I've been hearing, there's a decent chance that Mat Barzal asked for a trade this summer. He's someone who's very close to Lou and hasn't taken well to this news. Also, he has no desire to be a part of the upcoming rebuild, so things can get interesting very quickly." Let's start this right here. Phil is an account that has been right about things before, but it is also an account who likes to troll and really get a lot of views from people. I mean, just look at how many views this post got. 40,000 views. And frankly, we have no evidence that Mat Barzal does want to leave the Islanders. Yes, I have no doubt that Mat Barzal was upset that Lou Lamoriello was not returning. In fact, I think most of the Islanders in the locker room were disappointed that Lou Lamoriello was leaving, because despite the rules about facial hair and all the rumors about what it's like to play for Lou, these players love to play for Lou Lamoriello. I mean, just if you look at Zach Parise's interview, he did an interview recently talking about what it's like to play for Lou Lamoriello. He talked about how much he missed it when he went on to other teams and how much he really valued the team building that Lou Lamoriello does. I do think it's true that a lot of these players are disappointed that Lou Lamoriello is gone, but that does not mean they want to leave the Islanders. They don't want to leave New York. Frankly, most of these players really enjoy their homes on Long Island. Let's make that really clear. I mean, just talking, Stefan Roser actually responded eventually, not directly to Phil, but talking about all the rumors, because Islander fans all over Twitter have been talking about moving on from Mat Barzal and whether or not he wants to stay. And Stefan Roser clarified right here. This is a quote from Mat Barzal. "This is a great spot to play. We have a great organization from top to bottom. It's high class the way we're treated, so I can't blame anyone who wants to be back." Now, this, I believe, was a quote from before Lou Lamoriello moved on, but this does make it clear that Barzal likes to play in New York, and frankly, there really is not much incentive for the Islanders to move Barzal. Yes, I do think it is possible it happens. We're going to talk about his stats and some of the injury concerns in just a little bit. But first, I really want to focus on the type of packages that are being talked about in all these trade rumors, because really, that seems to be the problem. Because even if the Islanders are in a state of rebuilding rather than retooling, and we don't know that because, again, there are no definitive rumors on whether or not the Islanders are going to move on from Mat Barzal, because we don't know who is the GM of the Islanders. So how can we have a decision on a player so important as Mat Barzal when there's not even a GM there to make the decision at this point? There is a vacant spot for the Islanders GM at this point in time, which is why it's so important that the Islanders find a GM sooner rather than later so they can make decisions on issues like this. But even when a GM comes in, there are so many changes to be made with this team. And as we're going to talk about in the end of the video, there are so many opportunities for a GM to put their stamp on this team without moving Barzal, where this trade just does not make sense from an Islanders perspective. I understand it makes a ton of sense for the Montreal Canadiens to acquire a player like Mat Barzal because they desperately need a second-line center. The same goes for Vancouver, who desperately needs more talent in their forward lineup. That being said, does it make sense for the Islanders, especially with these trade packages that are being talked about? Not necessarily. If you look at what a lot of Montreal accounts, they're taking this off of articles written by I don't know if I would say Montreal insiders, but people talking about what the Montreal Canadiens can look to do in this offseason. And frankly, it's always talking about Mat Barzal or Bo Horvat, and then in return, the Islanders getting a couple first round picks or a secondary prospect. In a lot of these articles, they don't even talk about the Islanders acquiring the team's top prospects. And that I say, why would the Islanders do this? And I've seen a couple tweets by Islander fans talking about the similar thing about they could acquire a 15th or 16th round pick or a Montreal 16th and 17th round pick, sorry, 16th and 17th overall pick for Mat Barzal. And to that I say, what are the odds you get a player like Mat Barzal with one of those picks? It's not a guarantee. Frankly, Mat Barzal at 27 still has plenty of hockey to provide for the New York Islanders with the salary cap going up, even though his production has not been great. As we're going to talk about next, he still provides enough for this team. And frankly, if there's a team, if the GM is looking to make the Islanders younger and faster, Barzal is going to be one of the last players that goes from the Islanders. Now, there is a scenario where I do think Mat Barzal gets traded, and we're going to talk about it at the end. There is some speculation about both these players being moved. We're going to talk about it in just a bit. But first, I really want to talk about what is going on with Mat Barzal. These are Mat Barzal stats, and the big thing recently has been injuries. In the last 3 seasons, Mat Barzal has had 3 serious injuries. Now, he came back from his first injury this season, only to get injured again after a few games. Mat Barzal only played 30 games this season, and the second injury, apparently, his kneecap basically exploded after a shot to the knee. Not a good sounding injury, but we do have to keep in mind, Barzal was ready to come back if the Islanders made the playoffs. Perhaps this injury was definitely serious, but perhaps it was not as concerning as some fans are. Now, of course, in 3 seasons, you don't want to have 3 injuries, but the one thing, especially with people talking about Barzal being injury prone, yes, it is concerning that he has so many injuries, but it has been 3 different injuries, which does ease my concern a little bit. And between those 2 seasons, he did have a fully healthy season between them where he only missed 2 games, and he had one of his best seasons with 80 points since his initial rookie season where he put up 85. Barzal is a player with a lot of skill who simply has struggled to put up a lot of points for the Islanders as people hoped, especially after his rookie season where he put up 85 points. But still, he's been a very productive player for the Islanders, and frankly, in a lot of these years, he has been their most productive player. So the issue is not as much an issue that Barzal is the problem, and more so there just is not enough talent to put around Mat Barzal. Now, with these injury concerns and the fact that he just has not put up a ton of points, there is a chance a new GM looks at Mat Barzal and thinks they want to go in a different direction, especially considering he makes $10 million. But this would not be a scenario where the Islanders GM just wants to get rid of a contract, because this is not a terrible contract to want to get rid of. It's a player who, if anything, perhaps having a new GM who has a less defensive philosophy, like Lou Lamoriello, because Mat Barzal's best season with the Islanders was before Lou Lamoriello came in 2017-18. Perhaps a new philosophy helps Barzal put up more points. So the question is, why would you want to trade Barzal? And perhaps that answer is for another player who's struggling in a similar position. So one of the teams that has been talking a lot about Mat Barzal is the Vancouver Canucks. And Vancouver Canucks fans seem to think that they can trade a pick and a secondary prospect for Mat Barzal. Realistically, when you really look at it and you look at the rumors between these 2 teams, the most likely trade between the Vancouver Canucks and the New York Islanders is a trade for Mat Barzal going to Vancouver and Elias Pettersson coming back to the New York Islanders. Elias Pettersson 40, not the defensive Pettersson. I know they have a bunch of Petterssons on that team, but realistically, that is a trade that makes the most sense, because this is a player who's making $11.6 million in Vancouver. So he's a player who's making more money. He has been more productive, but he has been struggling the past 2 years, and frankly, Vancouver does not want to be spending $11.6 million for a player who last year put up 45 points. This is a trade where, on the Islanders' point of view, they're getting a player who has less of an injury concern. Elias Pettersson did have injury issues this year. That's why he wasn't playing at 100%. Perhaps that is a trade that makes sense for the Islanders' new GM. Again, we don't know what the new GM is going to think until they come to New York, because frankly, we don't even know what it's going to be. So I just wanted to put a little ice on some of these trade rumors for the Islanders to send Barzal out to another team for prospects and picks. Is it possible the Islanders trade Mat Barzal for a trade like this? Or perhaps for like another player like Dylan Larkin, who's also in the trade rumors? Sure, it's possible. I do think it is very unlikely. That's my personal take. Frankly, there has been no solid evidence that the Islanders are moving on from Mat Barzal. And frankly, why would they? If we look at some of the other players available on the New York Islanders this offseason, you have players like Anders Lee, JG Pajot, Casey Ciziquez, who have much less time on their contract, who are frankly easier to trade in the sense where it's like less money long term. And more importantly, these are players who are older, who are currently struggling to play a faster brand of hockey, which is what Islander fans likely want to see more of, especially considering they're not buying as much tickets next season. You have to think of this from the perspective of the New York Islanders owners. They want more fans in the seats. Does trading Mat Barzal for a prospect or a pick who is not going to be ready for 2 or 3 seasons going to get the Islanders fans back in the seats? I don't think so, which is why I do not think Mat Barzal does get traded. But anything can happen, and I'd love to know in the comments below whether or not you would like to see Mat Barzal get traded this offseason. And if you do want to see him get traded this offseason, because I think a lot of fans do for some reason, let me know in the comments what you expect in return, because I'm really interested of what people want to see. There's a lot of talk about the Islanders completely rebuilding, and perhaps the Islanders do go the rebuilding route. But even in that case, it still does not make sense for the Islanders to move on from Mat Barzal. That's just my perspective. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments, as I said below. And as always, if you have not already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. My name is Patrick Nilan. This is Islanders Digest. Let's go Islanders.